Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh Shem Al Shai by Shem Rakakodah Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect out there. Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, Luis de Torres was a Moor. Luis de Torres was a Moor. Let me give you some information on Luis de Torres. Okay, I asked a couple of questions. Let me see. Okay, this is not what I want. Are the North American Indians Israelites? The idea that Native Americans, North American Indians, are descended. Now, if you go back 3 years, 2 years, and you go to Google and you put in North American Indians Israelites, they'll tell you that yes, they are Israelites, and some scholars say this and religious leaders. So now they're saying, oh no, they're not Israelites. It says the idea that North American Indians are descended from the ancient Israelites is not supported by mainstream archaeology, genetics, and history. In other words, they want to erase history because, we've been pushing this, that the tribes consist of the Negroid tribes, the Latinos, and Native Americans. Here's a breakdown of the facts and origins of the claim, scientific and historical consensus, genetics and anthropology. DNA evidence shows that North American people or Indians primarily descend from populations in East Asia and Siberia, which is BS. They likely migrated across the barren land bridge into the Americas over 10,000 years ago. Genetic markers like mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome data do not align with those found in the ancient Near East or among the Israelites. It's a fucking lie. Linguistics and culture. North Americans, as in American Indians, languages are diverse and show no known linguistic relation to the Hebrew or other Semitic languages. Culture and religious practices also do not resemble those of ancient Israelites in any systematic or verifiable way. Where did the idea come from? The Book of Mormons, and also, okay, let me read this. The Book of Mormons, published in 1830, it claims that some ancient inhabitants of the Americas were Israelites who migrated from Jerusalem 600 BCE, is more like 700. However, this is a religious belief specific to Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons, and is not substantiated by archaeology, 19th century theories. Some early American thinkers speculate that North American Indians were the lost tribes of Israel. These ideas were often motivated by religious or racial ideologies and lack scientific support. You know what? Let me do this. Okay, is this it? Let me see. it said he was a Moor, or Moreno, which is a Moor. So Del Torres, Luis de Torres, was a Israelite, a Jake, and he was a chief interpreter for Columbus. And you had some Jakes on his ship. Okay, let me see if I can find it again. Luis del Torres, the interpreter on Columbus' first voyage, primarily spoke Hebrew, Chaldaic, and Arabic. Chaldaic is also known as Aramaic, which he expected would be useful in communicating with the expected population in Asia. So Columbus said, well, let me bring this interpreter because he speaks Hebrew, Aramaic, and Arabic, which Arabic is Hebrew. What's this guy, the so-called father of modern Hebrew? Yitzhak Perlman, also known as Eliezer Ben Yehuda. You have this book called the English Hebrew Dictionary, or the Ben Yehuda. He's known as the father of modern Hebrew because when they set up the state of Israel, they had to get some Europeans, which was mostly Ukrainians and Polish and people of Europe, and they had to teach them. They didn't know no Hebrew. They had to teach them Hebrew. They had to create this nation. It says, however, the indigenous population of the Indians did not speak these languages. Now listen at this stupidity. So Columbus was a dummy. He said, well, let me bring some Hebrew interpreter because we already know we're going to run into Hebrews. So Columbus had to know that they were Israelites. While Columbus, and this, you didn't read this 5 years ago. While Columbus believed he was near Asia, no, he knew he was going. He said that there's another land, I believe he said 700 leagues from Spain going west. That's documented. So he knew he wasn't going to India. Remember, he was a navigator. he knew he was going to the New World. They were doing trade with the Indians. So come on, man. They said the languages Del Toro spoke were ultimately not useful for communicating with the native population encountered in Americas. Columbus and his crew initially relied on sign languages. Ain't no sign. Look, they didn't have no sign languages back there. You can just put your hands up and the fuck out of here, man. And gestures to communicate. Later they would capture natives, put them in slavery, to learn their language and use them as interpreters. But I'm trying to find where it said he was a Moor. Torres was chosen by Columbus for his knowledge of Hebrew, Chaldaic, and Arabic, which is all Hebrew. The language of the Chaldees was Hebrew or Aramaic. After arriving at Cuba, which he supposed to be the Asian coast. No, they knew they did trade with the Indians of India. Oh, why can't I find this? Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second, y'all. I don't know how I lost it. Let me see something. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, let's see what this is. What language did Luis del Torres speak to the Indians? De Torres was Christopher Columbus' interpreter on his first voyage, chosen for his knowledge of several languages, including Hebrew, Aramaic, which is Hebrew, Arabic, which is Hebrew, Portuguese, which is a Romanic language, Spanish, which is Romanic, and French. So they didn't have English, wasn't around back then. Nobody spoke English. He knew that they didn't speak Portuguese, Spanish, or French. Christopher Columbus knew that these Indians that he was going to encounter spoke Hebrew, which Aramaic and Arabic are Hebrew languages. Columbus, like I give you an example. Ayash is man in Hebrew. Ayasha is woman in Hebrew. Arabic, the word for woman, I asked an Arab, I said, how do you say woman in Arabic? And he said Aisha, which is Ayasha. We say Ayasha, they say Aisha. Or they'll say Ben or Ibn. So when they greet each other with peace, they say salam, which is shalom or shalom. So the Arabics, even Yitzhak Perlman, the father of modern Hebrew, better known as Eliezer ben Yehuda, he said that he borrowed a lot of words from the Arabic, and he did say, but it's hard to find. If you go back 10 years back to Google, he said that actually the Arabics are speaking the actual Hebrew, but he modernized it. Abu, they would say Abba. Columbus mistakenly believed he was selling to. No, he did not. He knew where he was going, because they did trade with Asia. How did he get? He thought he's going. No, that's BS. He knew where he was going. From Spain, you would be going. If any direction, you would be going southeast to get to southeast to get to India. So when he set sail to go to the New World, which he said there's land on that side, he knew he was going. He knew he was going west. Remember, he was a ship captain. He came up under Henry the Navigator. You can read about him. For Portuguese man, that was the number one man. That was the man to go to learn about sailing. So they knew directions. They knew the first thing you learn is you look at the sun. You look at the sun and the morning star, the sun. The sun comes up and goes down every day. There's a cycle. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So if the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, they know when the sun is going down, they know that they're going west. So how did he think, oh, I thought I was going east? No, that's bullshit. This is all bullshit. We're finding out this man is a bullshit artist. Okay, believe he was selling to Asia. No, he was a navigator. There was 3 ships that sailed. He was an expert on the sea. He came up. He came up under as a child. He came up a child. He came up under Henry the Navigator. This is all bullshit. Okay, what's this? Let me see. Let me look up Henry the Navigator. So you got a lot of nonsense when you go to Google, and the chat's been pretty good, but they go off too. Let me bring this up. And see, when we speak to Jake that are Christians, they're going to not accept it because we're Jakes. They're not going to accept that. If Esau started saying, the Negroes in America, North American Indians, and so forth are Israelites, they would know that makes sense. Because that's called Stockholm Syndrome. This is what I want to do. I don't want to make this too long, but I'm going to have to go into King Solomon coming to the Americas. And the scholars know that King Solomon went back and forth to the Americas. It was a cycle of 3 years, a year and a half going, a year and a half coming back. Okay, what did I say I was going to do? I fucking forget what I was going to say. Oh, Prince Henry the Navigator. Prince Henry the Navigator. Sounds like a rapper. Prince Henry the Navigator. Prince Henry of Portugal. Duke of Viseu. Better known as Prince Henry the Navigator, was a Portuguese prince and a central figure in the early days of the Portuguese Empire, which is Spain. Portugal is originally part of Spain that broke off empire, and in the 15th century, European maritime exploration. Give me a second here. What was Prince Henry the Navigator known for? Prince Henry the Navigator is renowned for spearheading Portugal's age of exploration. So if there wasn't a Prince Henry, there would be no Christopher Columbus. There would be no America. Columbus came under his schooling. In that region that you wanted to learn about, ships and the sea, you had to go to the prince. He was the expert. Despite not being a sailor himself, he primarily known for sponsoring numerous voyages of discovery along the western coast of Africa, driven by his curiosity and desire to expand Portuguese territory and wealth when they went to the Americas. That was a papal bull. I believe it was Rodrigo Borgia, who papal bull, that anything west of Spain is theirs. So America, Canada, right? And to spread Christianity, their Christianity, like Vocab Malone Christianity, which is crap. He also established a center for navigation in Segres, Portugal, where a school of learning. He developed new technologies and methods for sea exploration, including the caravel ship design. Let me do this. Let me cut this. What relationship did Christopher Columbus have with Prince the Navigator? Christopher Columbus and Prince Henry the Navigator did not have a direct relationship. Prince Henry the Navigator died in 1460. Okay, good. So he never knew him. He never knew him. While Columbus' famous voyage took place in 1492, talking a little bit more than 30 years. However, Columbus did benefit indirectly from Prince Henry's legacy of exploration and navigation. So the expert to go to as far as navigation is concerned was Prince Henry the Navigator. But I thought I read something about that. But anyway, so if his name was Navigator, he knew how to fucking navigate. And so if Christopher Columbus was a captain of a ship of 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, we learned that in school. Oh, how great Christopher Columbus was. They don't teach you that he slaughtered the Indians. So they knew the first thing that you learn is fucking navigation. When he said there's land on the other side of the earth, he was talking about the West. Let me do this. Because he said he thought he was going to Asia. No, you look at the sun, you look at the moon, you look at the morning star. You know by looking up in the heavens. That's a divine compass. Look it up in the heavens. Let me. How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna phrase this? Give me a second here. Did Spain trade with India? Let me do it this way. In the 1400s, question mark. See, now I'm telling you something which ultimately led to the discovery of the Americas. Let me do it this way. Spain. Let me do it this way. Spain and India. Spain and India in the 1400s. In this 1400s, Spain and India were distinct entities with limited direct interaction. Limited, right? Let me do it this way. Let me go to 1600s. Let me go to the 1300s. During the 1300s, both Spain and India were shaped by significant political, social, and cultural events. Political landscape, the Iberian Peninsula, which is in Spain. In the 14th, Iberian goes back to the word Hebrew, because you had the Moors there. In the 14th century, was divided into various kingdoms, including the Christian kingdom of Castile, Aragon, united with Catalonia, Navarre, and Portugal, alongside the last remaining Muslim empire of Granada, which were the Moors, which were Jake. What did I put in? Spain and India. Spain in the Middle Ages is a period in the history of Spain. Medieval India, civilization and history. They had conquered Iraq, Iran, Syria, Egypt, and North Africa, and now invades Spain, the west, and India, the east. When did Spain learn about spices? Bear with me for a minute. Where did Spain learn about spices?
All right, spices around.
This is bullshit. Anyway. During the 1400s, both Spain and India were marked by significant political, social, and cultural developments, although they were geographically and politically distinct entities. But they knew of them. See, they're playing games. Reconquista, to reconquer. The Reconquista, the centuries-long Christian effort, white Christianity, which they were about killing. Them Christians back there were killing the dark nation left and right. To retake the Iberian Peninsula, because who had control of the Iberian Peninsula? The Israelites, which were Moors. From Muslim rule, which were Israelites, continued throughout the 1300s. By this point, most of Spain had been reconquered, because remember, Jake was ruling, so Esau had to come back. That was the 1,000 years they would lose Revelation 20, with only the kingdom of Granada remaining. The kingdom of Granada were the Moors. That was the last stronghold of the Moors. And why did they go down? Because of prophecy, remaining under Muslim control until 1492. Was del Torres a Moor? The Torres, de Torres, Louis del Torres, a Morano, that's an E. Pose it as a question. Louis del Torres was a Moreno. Ooh. Luis del Torres, Christopher Columbus interpreter, like I read before, bring it back. He was fluent. He spoke Hebrew, Aramaic, which is Hebrew, Arabic, which is Hebrew. He also spoke Portuguese, Spanish, and I believe French. And Columbus said he's going to be the chief interpreter. So Columbus knew that the people that he was going to encounter were Israelites. Luis de Torres, Christopher Columbus interpreter, on his first voyage was a converso born Joseph ben Halevi Halvivrai, according to Wikipedia. He was a Jake. He was called a Moor, but he was an Israelite, not a Muslim. He was a Jewish. He was actually an Israelite person forced to convert to Christianity during the Spanish Inquisition. While he was a real Jew, while the term moreno can refer to a person of darker complexion, in Spanish, the available information primarily focuses on his Jewish background and forced conversion. He said, no, you can't be an Israelite, you got to be a Christian, not specifically on his physical appearance or any Moorish ancestry. It's I don't know why I couldn't find it. Moreno. But it said he was a Moreno. Luis Moreno Torres family history. Torres Luis Day. Give me a second here. Okay, Moreno, I spelled it. Was Luis de Torres a Moreno? Let me do it this way. It took out a lot of stuff from Google because we doing the research. So here's what research says about Luis de Torres. He was a converso, born a Jewish man, and converted to Catholicism just before Columbus. He was forced into Christianity. 1960. That's what these Christians do. They shove that bullshit ass Christianity down your throat because they got it from these people that they tortured you to become a Christian. Christianity is the most wicked religion on the planet Earth. 1492 voyage to avoid the Spanish Inquisition, expulsion, right? Expulsion. That's what Trump is doing. He's expelling people. Columbus chose him for his knowledge of Hebrew, Aramaic, because he was a Jake, Aramaic, Chaldean, which means the same thing. Chaldean language is Aramaic, and Arabic, hoping he could communicate with the Asians. They were not Asians, who turned out to be indigenous people in the Americas. No, Christopher Columbus knew. Remember, he was an expert. He was a navigator. He stayed behind at La Navidad Hispaniola, which is Spain, serving as the first known Jewish. He was an Israelite settler in the New World and likely died there in 1493. Regarding your specific question, was he Moreno, dark-skinned? There's no credible... There it goes again about his complexion. We don't know what color he was. He could have been white. The term Moreno can mean dark-skinned, swarthy, or olive tone in Spanish, but sources don't mention his appearance at all. Most accounts only note his religious background, language, and role. And why was he able to speak Hebrew? Because he was a Hebrew. That they don't want to tell you. He's not a Hebrew, but he knows Hebrew. Well, it says he was a Jewish, which we know what that means. They don't describe his physical traits. All of a sudden, they don't know his. Come on now. So while we can't confirm his skin tone or declare him Moreno, we do know he was a Jewish-born converso and key figure in Columbus' first voyage, because he died the very next year. They might have killed him, but he was a Jake. He was a Jake. He knew 6 languages. His legacy is tied to his role as the first Israelite person in the Americas, not to any specific physical description. Yeah, well, we don't know what, we know that the Jews are white. No, he was a Jake. So Luis de Torres was a Jake, was an Israelite. He wasn't an Edomite. He was an Israelite. Christopher Columbus said he had to get the smartest people out there, and he knew that he had to get them because he spoke Hebrew, and this is all Hebrew. That's all Hebrew. Different dialects of Hebrew. So what man would you go to that knows the Hebrew? A Hebrew. Anyway, shalom. On to the next.